Welcome to Thrive, the podcast. Welcome to Thrive, the podcast, where I'll be talking with guests who've created extraordinary results in business and life through listening to and following through on their intuition in the face of logic, reason, and rationale, to demonstrate why your inner navigation is the most important advisor you'll ever meet. No matter what you've been through, faced, feared, or run from, Thrive is here to uplift you and give you the courage and fortitude to face your future, even when you don't feel fearless. I'm your host, Elizabeth Adams. Throughout my 20s and some of my 30s, I operated from a place of workaholism, believing that when I reached success, all would be well in my world. Coming home to myself was a journey that began with a series of synchronicities that led me to learning how to tap my intuition and ultimately gave me the tools to live a far more rewarding life. Since then, I've been helping my clients to thrive. No matter what you're up against, grief, depression, unfavorable circumstances of any kind are only ever a starting point on the way to realizing the life you were born to live. The power really is within you, and my intention with this podcast is to enable you to unlock it. My guest today is Emilia Nagy, dating for marriage mentor, and we are discussing the intricacies of women and the choices we make as a result of unhealthy family of origin dynamics when left unaddressed. We talk about how this impacts our dating and relationship world and the ways we can use awareness with our choice making to create fulfilling and long-lasting relationships. Relationships are fundamental to our experience of family life, friendships, community, and business. Through the years of uncovering my own dynamic in relationship, through assisting my clients in relationship, the one foundation I'm always working with is our fundamental connection to ourselves. Our connection to self will influence us from the patterns and the behaviors that are often invisible. They are often unconscious. And so we create freedom of choice and we experience creating what we love with the most important people in our lives when we're able to address what is unconscious and rewire ourselves from an embodied place within us. So this is the difference between running cycles of pleasership, martyrdom, dominance, submission, enmeshment. And when we choose to create relationships that truly fulfill us and nourish us, it impacts not just us, but everyone that's involved. And we make those better choices through not only understanding with awareness, but having an embodied experience of our inner power to create and to choose better. All of this is founded in our connection with ourselves. It plays a huge role in how we create our outcomes, no matter whether the relationships we're in are familial, parental, professional, or romantic. If relationships are the area you really want to deep dive into from the vantage point of your core blueprint, your foundational template and set point, you want to see the ways this plays out in your world, and you're invested in creating the freedom to restore your agency and cultivate a better connection in all of your relationships that will liberate you and those who matter to you, check out my 7-week Thrive in Connection immersion. This is a beautiful live container where we work together to unpack those structural dynamics at play for you right now. And we also dive into the 4 levels of consciousness and the 4 modes of relating. We create a visceral, felt sense experience that utilizes your intuition to create an entirely new foundation for connection that gives you the power to create relationships in a way that really fulfill you for the long term. These are the tools that I have used to restore and repair the most important relationships in my own life and help my clients to employ that have impacted for the better their repair with siblings, in their marriages, and in their professional relationships. I'll drop the link in the show notes so you can check it out. And in the meantime, enjoy this beautiful conversation with Emilia. Emilia, welcome to Thrive, the podcast. I'm so thrilled to have you as my guest because the work you're doing in the world helps women unravel decades of misunderstanding when it comes to men and really helps us recreate our lives in a way that's deeply fulfilling to our hearts, which is so important, right? And I just want to hear how you got here, because to get to the place where you are now, where you're serving your clients, you're helping them to create better relationships, all the way from just the original dating, all the way up to having beautiful, long-lasting, fulfilling relationships. You went on quite the journey yourself, right? It wasn't like you just had these natural abilities, but there was you that led you intuitively to lean into your experience, the pain of your experience, and uncover wisdoms that I think go unnoticed. And certainly when I speak of my own experience, the wounds around my experience growing up, the misunderstandings I had about my dad, and my, the dynamic between my parents in their marriage definitely put me in a position where marriage was the last thing I ever wanted.
Oh, yeah. I'm so sorry. Me too, by the way.
Yeah.
Not marriage was the last thing. I just didn't want it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for me, I just labeled it like marriage is totally like a war zone. Don't ever do it.
Yeah.
And not realizing that there were ways through it, because the things we make up when we're little, we don't address it,
Oh man, I would love to talk about it, because I always say the only reason why I'm a master, and we were just joking, like, Liz, I think I actually did it. I think I actually became a teacher and a coach of this, which I wanted to do, right? But it's the only reason why I'm a master is because I was a disaster. Like, I say that all the time. I really was a disaster. I felt that I was too broken for a happy relationship. I felt that I was too damaged. And in my 20s, when I was dating, I was also recovering from trauma, recovering from the trauma of emigrating from Bulgaria during communism and the family separations and narcissistic abuse, which was a pattern in my family of origin, which that was a whole deep dive. And that's actually where I started. I started with the narcissistic abuse piece because it was so heavy and it felt untransmutable. Like, I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm like, this is so hard. And so I started a group for narcissistic abuse recovery in San Diego. And then it grew to like thousands of people through Meetup. Then we moved to LA. Then we moved to, not moved, but we opened a chapter in LA. We opened a chapter in San Francisco. And what I learned just in those 5 years of leading those groups, honestly, I think that's like a PhD in and of itself. And at the same time, up until that point, I had already been doing about 10 years plus of work with Allison Armstrong and other relationship coaches, John Gray, Pat Allen, some of the other bigger names that were, kind of like the previous generation, the giants whose shoulders we stand on, right? And so, so I had gotten myself in a healthy marriage by that point, thank God. but I hadn't yet resolved the emotional piece. I had flipped the blueprint and flipped the pattern with my coaching work, but I hadn't yet gotten to the root of the cause, which was really important for my ultimate healing and then coming into the leadership of it. That's really the key, coming into the leadership of it, right? And so, yeah, it really has been a 20-year journey for me or more in terms of like, I dated for 10 years and then I've been coaching now women for 10 years plus. In my narcissistic abuse recovery groups, when I started, we also had men. So we looked at family dynamics, we looked at sibling relationships, like we looked at the whole thing. We looked at so many family systems. It was incredible. And so, yeah, it was a disaster. I was, attracting narcissistic men, unavailable men. I was chasing men. I was exhausting myself. And I just was like so hopeless. And I remember just feeling like despair, just despair. Like I knew I wanted to be a mom. I knew I had a lot of love to give. I just remember feeling despair and hopelessness. And just like, honestly, there were moments I just wanted to give up. I just felt so alone. And I felt like I wasn't going to get out of this. Like this was too big. This was too hard. This was too many wrong turns, and, yeah, but then, I went to Allison Armstrong's first workshop that was at that time called Understanding Men, Celebrating Women. And I did that. And then I bought her weekend course on understanding men. And then I did that. And that was the beginning of the end, praise God, in a good way. Because, because what I learned that weekend, she taught us all these things about men, like they're protectors, they're providers, they have single focus, they're this, they're that. And I remember being like, this can't be true. Like it was so different than my experience of men, just because of the modeling I'd had from my father. Both of my grandfathers died. Like the men in my family, I hadn't seen them that way ever.
I think that's the thing, it's the misperception, because I remember when I read the Queen's Code, suddenly the behavior of my lover, the behavior of my sons made sense to me. I was like, oh, and
yeah,
I didn't know it before because I was doing all the things that Alison addresses in the book, like directing and, questioning and, I was taking the responsibility on my shoulders all the time without realizing I didn't need to do that. But part of my doing that was the fact that I was a single mom for years and years and years, where you take both roles. But you don't end up in that position by accident. You end up in that position because you have a belief that you have to do it alone.
Do it alone.
You know?
Yeah.
So, excuse me, I just want to go back a minute to what you were saying about narcissistic abuse, because I know there's a lot of dialogue around narcissism in the world. My experience, my take, and this might not be accurate, but my take is that narcissism is just very deep wounding, where people have not had presencing, they have not had a witness, they have not had space to really understand. And as I think clinically it's a different thing, though. You can have a clinical diagnosis, maybe that's quite a different thing, but the label of narcissism itself to me is indicative of wounding that hasn't been addressed. How would you describe it?
Yeah, I mean, narcissism is when somebody is willing to meet their needs at your expense. That's my definition. So I don't care about diagnoses or whatever. That's actually why I didn't become a therapist. I sincerely thought I was going to be a therapist, but it wasn't really therapy that gave me the tools. Like I had amazing therapists, beautiful people, so much. Oh, your parents should have never had kids. Oh, I can't believe they did that, right? But it was like, now what? Well, how do I have a healthy relationship? How do I pick the right partner? How do I date? What do I do now? Right? Like that answer wasn't found in therapy. And so that's why I became a coach, because I'm like, this is what I really needed and didn't have, right? Well, I think that's how we all start, right? But so yeah, narcissism is when, very simply, is when somebody's willing to meet their needs at your expense. And yes, that's extremely painful. You know, if you're a child and you're growing up that way, you're growing up in a paradigm of being sacrificed.
Yeah.
Your needs are what you need to grow, to develop, to mature is being sacrificed. And so, you know, that whole thing, just to take it one step further, you know, we live in a culture that's like that, right?
Yeah.
We don't understand the service to other mentality very well yet. We're learning. There's a lot of people that are learning and have it, but you know, the modeling we have now in the world is service to self, right? Like the corporate greed. There's a lot is changing, and I love it. A lot is changing, right? But yeah, so what I came to in the whole narcissistic abuse piece, just to tie it all together, is that, you know, we are, because so many of my clients are dealing with that kind of wounding from their family of origins, so that then they're recreating that, having to divorce that, want to recreate a healthy partnership. And we do, we attract these gorgeous men, right? We do that. She does the work. She's now, you know, being met, being supported, being provided for, right? But and me too, because that happened for me too, right? But yeah, the narcissistic piece is, you know, a lot of us are undergoing individually what's happening in the healing of the collective consciousness.
And that, just to say, that's a very important key right there, is that we don't just do this for ourselves. When we choose the path of wholeness and completeness, it's not a personal win. A personal win is also included, but it's actually serving a far greater purpose, a far greater vision. You know, I don't think I understood that for a number of years. So I was more resistant to going on the journey and to choosing it. You know, I still was in the mindset all the way through my 20s and 30s. I can do this alone. I don't need anybody. I can do this alone. And then you start to really see the pattern, the conditioning, the structure that's underneath our society as a whole, and how we go into education and it's all blame, shame, punishment, and reward. That's the entire framework that we're given. It may already be in our family of origin, but if it wasn't in our family of origin, it will certainly be in the schooling system and all the way through the career and every other system that's built on top of it. So deconstructing that, being able to see that as a first point, is massive, let alone then to undertake the bravery and the courage it takes to start to open up, because it's painful when we start, right? It hurts.
It's very painful, because we do need to go through a grieving,
yeah,
right, of what we didn't have.
Yeah.
And that is a difficult process. That what's good is that we have that path. Like, we know how to do the grieving, right? I mean, it's not a logical, intellectual process either, but we know that we'll have the denial stage, we'll have the anger stage, right? We might have the bargaining, right? Like, we know that there's a grief journey for sure. Absolutely. Very deep and very profound. And it's so worth it. I mean, I always tell my clients when they are in the middle of the difficult parts, right? It's like, I would do it 10 times over. Like, it was so worth it. It was so worth it. And just to see my clients when they get to, like, one of my clients, single mom, right? The kids are 9 and 12. She had a narcissistic ex-husband, had to sacrifice, had to do everything he wanted. Her emotional needs were not met, because that was the pattern from dad, from family of origin, right? Then that was the kind of man, of course, exactly same patterning, that's who she married, who she had kids with. And then, you know, when she came to me, we started working on healing that, reversing that energy. And then we started dating. I taught her how to select for a healthy masculine man who wants to generate, who wants to provide, who wants to be our hero, right? All the things Allison taught us. So a few days later, we meet this amazing guy, right? And so the moment, like, we both cried, because she was telling me about the moment that her son was in the front seat, her 12-year-old son, right? She's a single mom, had kind of stepped into the husband, and she's very conscious of not, but right, he's a young man, right? So he had stepped into, I gotta protect mom, I gotta help mom, I gotta watch out for mom. And the moment that she shared this with me, that her man, now we'll say the man in her life, because we've been having a hard time with titles because of all these issues, right? But when he came in to their life, and and she got to ask her son to please, would you sit in the back? And just the whole shit with the sister, right? With the other child, right? That whole shift in that entire generational line that's now moving forward from that moment, right? Because now the man, a real man, a grown man who's healthy, who cares about her, who cares about her kids, who also has kids, they're working in partnership, right? Like a real man stepped in and took that seat. Praise God, right? Because what would her life be like if that didn't happen? Like, what would her kids' lives be like? What would their kids' lives be like? Like, she came in, she did the work, right? We were crying on our session. We were both crying
I think that
about that moment.
being able to identify a healthy masculine man, because men are walking around and some of them are no way grown up.
Right.
In
Exactly.
the same way that there's loads of women walking around and many of them are in no way grown up women.
That's very true. That's very true. That's one of the main things I focus on in all my coaching programs is teaching that selection process, and all the mistakes that happen with it, because women think, oh, well, my friend introduced me, then he must be a great guy. No, you still have to select, right?
Yeah.
Like you still need to put them through that journey. And what is that journey? And exactly, what does a healthy man look like? What does he talk like? What does he walk like? Well, the only reason why I learned that was because of Allison, right? I did her courses and just kept going. And then started dating with that and putting that into practice. And so it was so cool because my dating life completely changed. Like I went from dating like losers to like these amazing men who were like, can I take you to dinner? Can I take you to lunch? Like it just shifted. It shifted. It wasn't overnight. But it shifted so much. And I remember just shortly before I met my husband, I was meeting some great guys. Like they weren't my guy because like one guy was traveling, one guy was moving, one guy was in town for business. But it was so cool because as the quality of the men I was dating went up and bam, he came in. So it was so amazing. It was so amazing. But yeah, there is that journey of understanding, right? The intellectual understanding. And like I was saying with Allison, that workshop she did, right? Where at the end, the men came and the women got to ask questions and we got to see in person, like in real life, a man saying the things that she said. And we were like, and I remember that's when my jaw dropped and I was like, this is all true. This is all true. I got to live according to this now that I know this. I can't not live according to this. So yeah, so that's when the dating changed and everything changed. And I'm so thankful. I've just such a big faith because I'm like, how would this happen? Like, this is just a miracle.
I think the thing is though that it's an important distinction that you made the choice to live according to what you had seen to be true. Okay. And there can be, when we are still very wounded and we're not really willing to do the work, the compulsion to see it maybe and ignore it. Now, fortunately, I've had so many disasters in that area of my life myself that by the time I discovered Allison and her work and what she had to teach, it just all clicked into place. I'd had so much experience by that time. It made perfect sense. And I have to say, my choices of men in life have not been totally disastrous. But what's been interesting is how the wounding shows up. And if two people are not equipped to deal with it, they cannot actually grow and they cannot work through it. So part of it is firstly identifying what are the healthy signs within us and within the other person, but also the communication has to be there as well. The ability to communicate, the ability to slow down, the ability to identify what is going on. And often we can be so attached to that romantic idea that we don't have those conversations. The foundation of anyone's adult life is eroded by the delusion of some sort of fantasy.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And I always say, the couples that create that fulfilling, nourishing energy flow are the couples that have the hard conversations.
Yeah. So tell
And
us a little bit about, okay, let's just break it down for people. The unhealthy
okay.
masculine. I often refer to unhealthy masculine as sort of like Peter Pan,
Mm-hmm.
who they don't really want the responsibility. They haven't sorted out their life. I think
Mm-hmm.
in that who wrote that book about, well, Alison definitely covered it about this 3 stages, Prince. What
Right. The amazing development of men
yeah,
in her. Yeah. I
the
don't know who wrote the book about that, but I know hers is called The Amazing Development of Men that talks about that.
yeah, and also, you know, I mean, I have 2 sons, and I know my youngest one often talks about, you know, he's really into developing his leadership.
Aw.
What he's also straddling with that is not allowing himself to be weak. So in his mind right now, that's about not express my emotion, not expressing emotion. And so we're talking about how to unpack emotion in a healthy way as a man without it
Mm.
failing your leadership in the
Oh,
relationship.
so good. So good.
So that's just one of the conversations that comes up. But I also, yeah, so let's just go there. What's an unhealthy masculine?
Well, let me go through what is a healthy masculine, because really an unhealthy masculine is whatever is not that. Okay. And I'm gonna give 10 things. I have this PDF. I don't know if you want to offer it to the listeners, but we can offer them this PDF that I created because I get this question so much. So basically, a healthy masculine man is somebody who cares about your needs.
Mhm.
And of course, of course we think, well, of course somebody should care about our needs, but it's like that thing I talked about before. It's not at your expense.
Can I just say something here?
Yeah.
It's really important as a woman that we know our needs, because part of the reason I got into so much difficulty for such a long time
Mm-hmm.
that I was in denial of my needs. I was
Mm,
ashamed of having needs.
yes.
I was deeply ashamed that I had needs.
Mm,
And it was such a light bulb when I realized not only is it okay to have needs, but I should really honor my needs. That changed everything.
yeah. Yeah. That is definitely a
And
huge change.
so if you are still wounded in your femininity, it doesn't matter how much that man wants to meet your needs, because you're going to be rejecting him, you're going to be pushing him away, you're going to be denying that support, even if he's a brilliant man.
That's true. If you don't know that he's trying to meet your needs and then don't know what your needs are and then don't know how to communicate that to him in a way that sets him up to succeed and providing them because it's what he wants to do, then yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So he cares about your needs. And what I think the thing that comes in that's flabbergasts women often is that it's not at your expense, right? Like him meeting a need, like if we've been taught in the transactional relationship realm, or we never had a modeling of healthy masculinity, that then he wants to meet your needs, and then he doesn't want compensation. He doesn't want have to bill. He doesn't want have, well, I got the bill, you get the tip. He wants appreciation. He wants receptivity. He wants feminine energy. He wants to feel that he contributed. It's so different than how women think about what friendship and connection is, right? Like, so they will care about your needs, and a healthy man will care about your needs, and he will go out of his way to meet them. Like he will do everything he can to meet a need that when he's clear you have that need, he will do whatever he can to meet that need.
Yeah.
And the next one is that he wants to provide for you. Like he wants to do that. It's not a burden. It's not a, it's not a, it's not something that he sees as a problem.
Yeah, it's not an inconvenience to him.
It's not exactly, it's not an inconvenience. A healthy masculine energy person considers an honor, considers it a challenge. And what's so amazing, and because my degree's in biochemistry, I'm such a nerd about this. It's like when they get to solve these little problems of what are our needs and how to meet them, or big problems of what are our needs and how to meet them, their brain produces dopamine and they get positive reward.
That makes
And
so much sense. Yeah.
right? And we as women, we don't produce dopamine in those circumstances. Like if we were to tell a girlfriend, like, here's my needs, it feels so like we're putting her in the corner. We're gonna put a weight on her. We're gonna overwhelm her. Yes, because a woman having to rise up to a challenge, it's stressful on her adrenals. It produces cortisol. it's not comfortable, convenient, or nourishing. But for a man, it is.
Yeah. It's so the reverse, isn't it? Of
Yes,
can,
it's spiritually and biochemically
mm,
positive for him. And
yeah.
emotionally, of course, if you will let him provide something so he can feel like he made a contribution, and you receive it and appreciate it. So this is just priceless, because this is things that's already inherent in us. I just think our mainstream narrative has just gone so far astray, right? Like the things I'm teaching, they're not only organic and like divine, but they're also like biochemical.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about the narrative of feminism, because, it wasn't that I was super aware of feminism, but what I was aware of is, I suppose my mother had a very difficult time that was never addressed. My dad was the joker and the provider. So I wanted to be that. And I saw any woman who was crying as such a weak woman, like,
Mm,
I'll just take this on, I can do it. And so I would step up to every challenge, not
mhm,
realizing that I was actually damaging myself in the process and causing myself so
right.
much stress and so much heartache,
Mhm,
all of that kind of stuff, which I ended up as a workaholic. That's how I navigated life. I thought that the harder you worked, the more you pushed, and
mhm,
you
mhm,
could eventually reach success. And I had 15 years of that before I really came to terms with the fact that, what am I doing?
mhm.
It's insanity.
Oh,
And
that's so good that you
yeah,
went through that transition.
oh, thank God, huh? Because
Yeah,
I think there's still a huge amount of women who they they've been trained to perform
right.
and be the best, and be competitive, and
Mm,
all the things that a man is actually built for. We're not built for that biologically, as we're just not. But we have a society that's in denial of that, because it's a violation of our equal rights,
mm.
which is such a shame. It's such a distortion on our natural gifts and talents.
Yes, absolutely. And speaking of feelings, the third thing is he will cherish your feelings,
Yeah.
even if they aren't logical, which is again mind blowing to women, that it's like a healthy masculine man doesn't expect the feminine to be like him. He might misunderstand her from his perspective, but it doesn't go the other way, how we expect men to be like us. Well, they better be like us, or they're damaged, or there's something's wrong with them if they're not in touch with their feeling. Like, it's so cool, because the healthy masculine, because they see themselves as accountable to take care of
Mm.
women, children, and the elderly, the sacred masculine, they don't they don't need us to be logical. They don't expect us to be like them.
Yeah.
They like
Although
uh,
you say that, though, I haven't experienced too many men who know what that means, because I came across a great coach who would say, to a woman, tell me what you're feeling. He invites it into the conversation. I don't think
yeah.
I've ever sat with a man who said to me, tell me what you're feeling, and then held space for that feeling.
Oh. Yeah, my husband asked, "How was your day?" And I know that's his invitation for, how was your day? Like, how did you feel? What did you do? What did you learn? What did you enjoy? What did you not enjoy? Or at least that's how I take it. And that's what I share with him. And then he's happy to listen. But I just remember the beginning of me applying this piece about like not having to be logical. It shocked me. Um, with my husband, yes, but also before that, like I mentioned, I started to start connecting with masculine men. And I noticed like they cherished me and I didn't have to make sense.
Mm.
Like, I had some friends that I used to go salsa dancing with, and it was like, well, I don't feel like going. Okay, let's go home. Like, they didn't challenge me on it. Like, they didn't need me to explain myself, or, and same with my husband. Like, I'd be upset and need to cry, and he wouldn't sit there asking me to rationalize why,
Mm.
I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. So yeah, the healthy masculine energy is just absolutely divine in this area. Yeah. Yeah. They will cherish our feelings even if they aren't logical. They don't need them to be logical. They will still cherish us.
That's the thing, though. It's that for me, that's been the journey of honoring my own feelings by letting myself feel them. You know, the environment where I grew up, it was like not okay to feel or not
No,
okay to be. So, you know,
no.
what that's like, right? So you shut it down. You're very
Yeah.
defended. So when you do answer a question like, how was your date? It's from the back. Oh, fine. It's from the back.
Right. It's
Which
not in that deep
the
embodied
signal
place yet if we
of,
haven't done that work within. Yes, exactly.
yeah. Yeah. So it's been a journey to go, oh my God, I can express the truth of what I'm feeling, and it doesn't matter how it lands. Wow. And
Yeah.
if they can't receive it, you just won't hear back, you know, or they'll just be whatever, or they'll just be some way disconnected, which is a great signal to showing us what's really going on, rather than making ourselves blame ourselves for that reaction. Because there could be
Right.
a cycle of, oh gosh, I expressed myself and now they've pulled back, so I must be wrong somehow. No, no, no.
Mm,
That's just a signal that they are not the person, basically.
right. Yeah. If there's judging going on or if there's like a request for rationalization, unhealthy men will do that.
Mm,
They'll
mm,
judge that, but healthy men will not do that.
mm, mm,
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Should I
mm.
do the rest?
Yes,
Should I
please.
keep
I'm
going?
sorry I keep interrupting you, but
Oh no, it's okay. You've got stuff to say. That's good. So the fourth one is we'll never speak down to you or put you down or criticize you harshly or demean you, right? So the way a healthy masculine man handles situations when, we all make mistakes, right? But he's not gonna sit there and criticize and disrespect and chide his woman, especially in public, right? Like he will, he will might say like, this happened and I didn't like it, or I felt disrespected, or could you please not, like my husband would say, please don't do that again. Like that's all he ever says. Please don't do that again. Right. And thankfully it's not often, but I'm human and I mess up sometimes. But yeah, so yeah, they will not criticize you or put you down or demean you. This is a big one for me because I grew up with so much criticism, disrespect, dishonor from my dad and my mom. Just constant barrage. So to be safe, like to just be in a relationship where I'm safe, and healthy masculine men don't need that. They don't need to do that. They're secure enough and they have confidence enough and they're living their life in a way that they don't need to focus on us and what we're doing wrong. They're not even concerned about it, and unless it harms them or the children in some way, and then they need to step up about it. But yeah, so we'll never speak down to you or put you down, even though he is a leader, right? He's not going to treat you like you're less.
mm.
Keep going.
Yep.
Okay, so the fifth one will support you by wanting to help in your dreams, your goals, and projects, and might ask like, well, what can I do to help with that? Like I noticed, well, my husband, praise him, like I love him so much, praise God for him. He does this all the time. Like, well, what can I do? Well, can you get me water? I just need water. I'm going on a call and I have a 3-hour stint of calls. Yes, and he'll bring me water. My clients are like, oh, I'm like, yes, you will have a man that takes care of you too. And that's
This,
the
this,
work we.
this is interesting because I think I've often been the one to do that in the relationship. Be the giver, be the giver, be the giver, be the giver, be the giver.
Mm-hmm.
And not even always ask, sometimes just do without being
Mm-hmm.
asked. And I learned actually, no, as the woman, be in the receiving mode, and then they will ask if they want or need something.
Yeah.
But for years, I had it so backwards,
Right.
giving gifts and giving this and giving that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. I had it backwards for a long time too.
Mm.
I definitely had it backwards. But yeah, so what can I do to help with that? He'll ask. And I remember just dating before I met my husband, even just dating some like healthy masculine men that a few older gentlemen, like they came in and they were like, like there was a man that was helping me with my real estate career at the time before I did this. You know, he gave a lot of support. Like, what can I help? Do you need this? Do you need this? Right? A couple of men I went on dates with, like one I told him I wanted to write a book, you know, and he was like, well, you know, he was in, well, do you need help with the publishing? Like they want to know, they want to help, they want to contribute. They want to be allowed to contribute, and they will contribute. So, you know, Allison taught me this, like, please let them, like that big word, like let, right? Like, please let them, and please give them the quality information of what that is for you, because it's going to be different. And that goes back to what you were saying, Liz, about honoring our needs, knowing what our feelings are, being willing to share that with the men in our life, right? Because yes, absolutely, when the woman isn't healed and she's in her disempowered feminine and or in her masculine, wounded or not, right? Then we're not able to be that feminine counterpart.
Mm. Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's number 5. And number 6 is will want to spend time with you and take care of you. So we'll want to spend time and take care of you. He wants to spend time. Can I take you for a coffee? Can I, do you need, did somebody change your tires? Right? Like when they care about us, they want to know how we are and what they can do to make our life better.
Yeah. I think that my best experience of that was my partner, who used to cook for me all the time, you know, lavish me with food.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just the most beautiful experience, you know, just to have everything always provided and give me, you know, and if you needed me to do something, you'd just tell me, go do this. And, you know, and it was like, that's where I felt the most kind of, I could relax. Like,
Right.
somebody's got this. I don't have to
Somebody's got this.
figure it all out.
Exactly.
They're gonna tell me what they want and how they want it, and you know, and bring all the provision as well, you know, so I don't have to go and provide it. That was really awesome.
Yeah, and so the next one, I have 3 more. So the 7th one is will keep his word. And if he forgets or does not do what he promised, he will apologize. Like he will be accountable. That's a sign of a healthy adult, but even still more healthy masculine, because the masculine is really about honor and integrity. The healthy masculine is really about honor and integrity. So when they say something, they're gonna do it.
Yeah.
They're gonna do it. Yeah.
Or they definitely won't be promising things that they can't deliver.
That too. It goes the other way as well. Exactly.
The unhealthy man will be promising you the moon, the stars, and the planets beyond it.
Yes.
Not be able to deliver on any of it. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's really important. And the other one that's really important is will apologize and admit his mistakes. And I mean, this is a sign of a healthy adult, like a healthy human being, but it's also a sign of a healthy masculine man, because he will be, like I said, accountable and take ownership of his behavior, his choices, and be willing to accept and face the consequences of that. So that's in general as a whole, not just if he didn't keep his word. And if there was a mistake he made in some other way, maybe he said something wrong to you, or felt he didn't act appropriately in a certain situation, like he will own it, and that's priceless.
Yeah.
I love men so much. Okay, 2 more. He'll be happy when you're happy.
Yes, to express your happiness.
Yes, he'll be happy when you're happy, as opposed to an unhealthy man, because with an unhealthy man, he will not, he will try to undermine the things that make you happy, right? But a healthy masculine man will want to see you happy. That actually, men, that fulfills their soul when they see a woman joyful in her happiness. It's so precious to them. So yeah, they will, it makes them happy to see us happy.
And I just want to contrast that with the feminine, female side of this, right? Because I know that for a long time, the communication pattern I had was to complain. I had no other model, no other template, no other.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't natural to me to express joy or happiness because I was always trying to protect what made me happy. I couldn't give it to someone. I couldn't express it because they might then take it away or stop doing it. So let me keep it to myself. That made me deliriously happy, and I won't say a thing. But then if
Yeah.
someone's up, then speaking out. And so then it looks like they can't win all the time. So
Yes.
that's how it looks on the female side. You're just not expressing your appreciation or your joy, and you're not connected to it, and you're trying to protect it all the time.
Right. And also that piece that you said about holding the joy, it's like, in some ways, joy, sharing, like really sharing joy is even more vulnerable, right? Because, and then it's that vulnerability that nourishes them, because that's how they see that their contribution is making a difference. So precious, right? Yeah. And the last one, and then I got to jump off because I have a session, but will encourage you to participate in the activities and hobbies that interest you. So very different from an unhealthy man who they will want to keep the things that nourish you out of your life so they can have control, so they can have dominance or have all the attention of their unhealthy man that, didn't have probably didn't have a very healthy relationship with his mother and didn't get the nurturing he needed. But a healthy man, he doesn't need you to be his mom. He doesn't need you to stay home and dote on him. He wants you to go enjoy your life. Like my husband helped me buy my horse and get my horse trained, and he did that for me because he loves me. And I'm so happy. So yeah, so he will encourage you to participate in the things that nourish you.
I'd say that any man who isn't is hiding his own insecurities, as well. There's work on both sides always to be done. I don't want to keep you much longer, but that's a beautiful summary of what a healthy and a healthy woman in a way looks like. So primarily you're helping women at the moment with their dating life, creating partnership, right? Like going through the stages of, Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, I help women and in 3 stages. So yes, in the dating, yes, I help them in the healing. Sometimes women just need healing. They're not ready to date yet. They need healing. They're trying to change their blueprint of what they got from their family of origin, like we talked about in the beginning. And I also help them with the partnering. So all these things that we talked about, okay, well, we can have an intellectual understanding of the 10 signs of a healthy man. But how do you then be? That changes who a woman is at the core. If she really understands and can embody and can implement and integrate what that means, then if that's a man, then who do you be? Like, what does that give us access to? It's phenomenal, right? So those are the 3 layers: the dating, the healing, and the partnering. So every woman's in a different place. But like I would say, I don't work with couples. I work with women. Yeah, that was the distinction.
Great, great. I will drop your links in the show notes so people can reach out to you. And
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me. It was so great to be here, and it's so great to meet you.
yeah, likewise. Really, really great. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share it and subscribe to the podcast. If you would love to reach out to my guest or myself, visit the show notes where you'll find all our contact information. Thank you so much for listening.